I have had a revelation. And it's quite an important one. It's quite a big one. And I want to share it with you guys. Because I think it's going to confirm a lot of things that some people suspect. And it might open a few people's eyes to the lies of the Jedi. So as you guys know, I've been going really, really hard on competitive play. I was going to tournaments every single weekend. I was going to multiple tournaments a month. Sometimes I would go to 2 tournaments in a week. I think in November I was at 6 events over the course of 1 month. I've been doing a lot of tournaments, and I've been doing that pretty much all of 2025. And even in a quiet month like December, I've still been to a tournament. So, you know, I'm still going to have gone to a tournament, right? So I've been playing a lot of tournaments recently, and I've been really enjoying it. But I've definitely been feeling a little bit burned out. And so I started exploring some of the games and other ways of playing 40k. Now, at first I went and played a bit of Bolt Action, because I love Bolt Action. And I went and played a bit of Old One, because I love Old One. And those games were definitely very refreshing. Definitely the palate cleansers that I needed. But as always, I wanted to play 40k. Because I like 40k, I love it. But I wasn't quite ready to go back to playing 40k competitively. So I had a little bit of a mad one. And I just went and bought lots and lots and lots of new terrain for the battle reports. And all of this terrain was really cool and really immersive. You're watching this at the time of recording. You'll be seeing this battle report on Sunday. Make battle reports great again. Necrons versus Guard. Start of a little narrative one-shot campaign me and Simon are doing. But if you're watching this when, you know, post-live as like the stream highlight or something, this video will already be out. And I'll try and have Evan make a link down to the battle report for it, because I know some of you guys will be curious about that. But Simon and I have been doing some narrative 40k, and we set up the board so it was very, very, very immersed terrain, Dawn of War terrain, proper ruin cities, not an L-shaped ruin in sight on a perspex base, nothing like that. All of that shit just gone. We just started playing, and it was so much fun. It was just wild. It didn't feel like just another mission. It didn't feel like, oh, no, here we go again, hot drop, you know, blah blah blah. It didn't feel like just another mission. It felt new and fresh and interesting, and it actually felt almost like we were playing. It felt a little different at the same time. It wasn't homebrew or anything like that. But to give you an idea of what we did is we played on a 6x4 rather than a 60x44. We played at 1500 points, and we had a custom primary mission, which was to capture the different Dawn of War buildings. There was no secondary missions, and there was no progressive scoring throughout the game. It was just old school. Who can hold what buildings by the end of the game? And was it a perfect system? No. You came to appreciate some of the advances that have been made in competitive play. Like the idea of not just being able to rush onto objectives at the end of the game. The idea, going second in match play is already supremely powerful. In a case of let's just hold, all you have to do is hold the objective at the end, it's even more powerful. It's definitely something you need to be aware of. And we had to have a big gentleman's agreement. Like Simon brought he brought one Doomsday Arc for his shooting and one Doomsday Flyer, the Flying Croissant. That was his long range shooting. Mine was 3 Sentinels and a Tank Commander, just one. But we discussed it before the end. We discussed it before we played. So it definitely requires a gentleman's agreement. It definitely requires the ability. It definitely requires 2 players to have the ability to turn off the competitive side of their brain and force themselves to take stuff they wouldn't normally take and to tone things down. Like I took a Ministorum Priest and put it inside a Catachan blob, even though that meant the Catachans couldn't then scout, because it was like, this is cool, priests and Catachans. It's a combo that I wouldn't normally take because I lose the scout, but it's still a valid combo because now it means my Catachans have got sustained hits. That's cool. You know, don't put plasma guns on everyone. Don't put lance cannons on everyone. On one of my infantry platoons, I took 2 autocannons, 2 grenade launchers. I went old school. ACGL squads. Who remembers that from back in the day? ACGL. I took old school autocannon, grenade launcher squads. It was really cool. I put a commissar in a blob. Not as a secondary game scorer, because there was no secondary game. Just in a blob. And you know, Simon, you know, Simon and took in one. We've done 2 of these games now, and in one of them, Simon took flayed ones, and he didn't just use them as early infiltrating and scores. He got them into combat, and we had combat. It was cool. It was really good. In one game, in one of these games we've done so far, I ran a Valdor. It was absolutely trash. Absolutely trash. But it was if I was playing competitively, I never ever would have been able to justify bringing the Valdor, because I would have just, by putting it in my list, I would have automatically lost the game, because it's 285 points. It's more expensive than a Rogel Dawn, and it basically fires 2 slightly bigger las cannon shots and then 1 actual las cannon shot. It's unfathomably bad. I wanted to use it. One of the people in chat have been talking about their Valdor, so I was like, screw it, I'll take a Valdor. I've never used it. It's so bad I actually don't care if it goes to Legends. That's how bad it is. But I feel like I am falling into GW's trap there, because they want me to be like, bad units can go away. Like, I know you could have just given it better rules, GW. I know. But the point is that I never would have got the chance to use it. One of the great advantages of narrative play is the ability to bring stuff you wouldn't normally bring. But again, it requires that gentleman's agreement, because there is a really, really big flaw in it. If one person doesn't honour the agreement, then it just falls apart instantly. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I've really, really struggled to do narrative play in the past, because some of my regular opponents that I've played growing up with 40k and playing 40k, one of the game club that I was part of for a long time had a motto, which was come to Warlords, get smashed again, get better. And they had a thing of basically everyone played as hard as they could every time, and if you didn't like it, then that's okay, but this isn't the club for you, kind of thing. But if you stick around, you'll become a better player. And some of the best players that I know that are on international teams and stuff, like teaming and stuff, they are part of like Warlords and stuff like that. Like, it's just a really, really good club for just getting good at 40k. But those people really do struggle to turn it off. And like likewise, you know, like I love my brother to bits, but my brother is almost like biologically incapable of bringing a soft list. He just can't do it. Do you know what I mean? And that's no fault against him. He likes to play hard and play fast. You know what I mean? And if we've ever tried to do narrative play before, he'd like maybe be, oh, I brought a soft list, but it's like his exact same list, but it's like swap one unit out. You know, that just doesn't quite work. So it really needs you to bring. It reminds me, I did a 500 point game with my brother. First time I had my Death Guard army. I was like, okay, I'm just using 500 points Death Guard to get used to them. And he turned up with 2 units of maxed out Sanguinary Guard and then 5 Incest, because that was the minimum he had to bring. And I was just like, I've got 2 Plague Marine squads and a Rhino. This game is over before it begins. You know what I mean? So some people just can't turn it off. So you need that gentleman's agreement. So if you find someone that's into narrative play or is able to turn it off, you need to really hold on to that person. They are a precious commodity. They are a precious resource. That's one of the reasons why I think narrative players struggled. Because at least with match play, everyone is on the same page. Everyone's expectations are the same. If everybody knows that everyone's going as hard as they can, and everybody knows what the most efficient choices are, then it means that, in a funny sort of way, everyone's on the same page. It's a level playing field. The problem is when you have someone that wants to play soft and they can't, and they turn it to a pickup game and they can't win, they can't have fun because the expectations are different from that game. All of what I've said so far is fairly standard, fairly run-of-the-mill. Stuff you probably would have heard people say before. I actually today had another epiphany. Because for all of the flaws of narrative play and all of the strengths of competitive play, narrative play beats competitive play in one really straightforward and simple way. It's really simple. It's so straightforward. So one of the things I'd never realized because I was so deep in the rabbit hole, I couldn't see the woods for the trees. I was deep down in the fucking mines. I was yearning for the mines. Is how much bookkeeping and thinking, sounds crazy, but thinking has to take place during a match play game of 40k. Because not only do you obviously have to maximize your list as much as possible, which can require a lot of effort and thinking and whatnot, but when you're actually in the game, this is what, not off the table, but in the game, okay, you've got to place down the objectives equally. You've got to place a terrain down according to a terrain map. You've got to when you're doing your mission, when you're playing the mission at the beginning of your turn, you've got to come away from the game. How many primary points did you have? Then you're about to start rolling your dice. Oh no, you can't roll your dice yet. You've got to pick your secondary missions. Okay, what are my secondary missions? Okay, so now I know what my secondaries are. Now I've got to think about how I'm going to achieve those secondary missions. This unit needs to go here. This unit needs to go here. So this needs to do this. This matches on this. Okay, so you're doing all this thinking, but you're not actually playing the game. You're not rolling the dice. You're not moving these. There's all this stuff that's happening, all this bookkeeping that's happening, all this stuff you've got to keep track of. And you're not just rolling dice and having fun. It's like a job. Recording things in your app, recording things in bloody. It's like managing. It's basically like managing a fancy Excel spreadsheet, and you spend so much time every turn, constantly thinking, actively and passively. Secondaries, primaries, secondaries, primaries, secondaries, primaries. It's exhausting. In narrative, the way I do narrative anyway, and obviously the way I do it could be very different. In narrative, there's the mission. No secondary objective. The only secondary objective that might exist is a fun one like, oh,
sir, yes, sir.
Oh, I've got an inquisitor leading his inquisitorial warband. He wants to take on the enemy warlord because he wants to he wants to basically capture a bit of he wants to, if he can, it's kind of like those mano a mano fights, that kind of things. Oh, I've got a Death Watch kill team that wants to try and take on that's been sent in, it's been brought in and allied with the Imperial Guard to try and beat the Catan, that kind of thing. Like it's the secondaries are organic. The secondaries are what could be achieved to advance the story and feed into the next mission, feed into the storyline. It's very much like it's like a sandbox, right? So you have your primary mission, and any secondaries that come up, you kind of set yourself throughout the game. Like, I want that commissar to get into a duel with that cryptech, or I want this rhino to just to get into your deployment zone and get into your onto your base just because it'd be funny, that kind of thing. Like, I know I probably lost in the primary, but if I can do loads and loads and loads of damage to your army, narratively, you will have won the battle, but maybe it's going to cost you in the long run. Those are like soft, organic secondaries. But really, there's just the primary mission. And the primary mission only needs to be worried about at the end of the game. That's it. You don't need to keep score. You don't need to keep track. You don't need to fuck about. It's just, okay, it's my turn now. Movement phase. Shooting phase. Charge phase. Fight phase. My turn's done. It's my turn. And now I need to work out my primary score and draw my secondaries. Oh, I don't like that secondary, so I'm going to redraw that secondary. And now I need to think about what I'm going to do. Because what I was trying to do last turn is now completely different to what I'm trying to do this turn. So now I've got to come up with, on the fly, a whole new game plan on how I'm going to achieve these moving secondaries. And I like Maelstrom of War, don't get me wrong. I like it. I liked it back in the day, but it's just when you're playing casual, when you're playing narrative, just there's the mission. And it's so much quicker. It's so much smoother. And you know what? From someone who does a battle report perspective, it allows me to just concentrate on filming the epic moments, on filming the cool stuff, and to concentrate on what's actually happening in the game. When I'm doing so I did a narrative battle report yesterday, and I did a match play one today. Today, I really felt like most of the time I wasn't really getting any zoomed in shots or anything. I wasn't getting any epic moments. I felt like most of the time I was just stood here with the camera, generally my point of view, moving stuff around. Because I didn't have time to, because I was so focused on how am I going to achieve my secondary, how am I going to achieve my primary, blah blah. It wasn't epic. It was fun, and I really enjoyed the game with my opponent. There were lots of back and forth moments, don't get me wrong, but it was a lot more bookkeeping. And honestly, it's just a faff. It's a big faff. So, in summary, I really like competitive play because I think it makes a level playing field, and when you turn up to a game, everyone knows what to expect, and that's good. And everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet, and that's really good. Everyone's on the same page. But I think it's got too much faff. There's too much faffing. There's too much messing about. Narrative play is easy. It's actually really easy. As long as you've got someone on the same page, it's really easy. And it's just smoother. It's just so much smoother, and it's easier, frankly. It's easier. But it has a huge Achilles heel. It's a very, very fragile ecosystem. And if you don't put effort into talking to your opponent and balancing lists against each other, like Simon and I literally, he turns up with his rough army list, and I turn up with my rough army list, and then we go, I think he'll go, okay, I think what I've got, he will literally say, I think I've got something that's a bit too strong in my list. I'm going to take it out. And I'll go, I think I've got something in my list which might be a bit too strong. I'm going to take it out. Not necessarily in the same time. So we'll see our two lists. We'll bring a few spare models with us. And then if I think I brought something that's too spicy, I swap it out. And if he thinks he's brought something too spicy, he'll swap it out. And if I think my list is a little too soft, I'll say, so Simon, leave your list. I'll add something a little bit spicier in. And we basically both look at the list and go, do you think that's fair? And I think your list is fair. Do you think mine is fair? Yeah, I think your list is fair. And you just have, you can't be awkward about it and be like, yeah, I think it's all right. You've got to be honest, like, Simon will say to me, I think that's too much for this game. And I'll be like, okay, I'll take it out. And I'll say to him, I think that's too much for this game. And he'll go, okay, take it out. But also, there's a bit of that, a bit of self-policing going on. There's a tiny bit of self-policing. Mostly, though, if I'm going to be honest, if Simon sees something and goes, oh, I think something in my list might be a bit over the top, I'm just like, just leave it. He's like, what do you mean just leave it? Like, I think he's only swapped one unit out. And I think I've only swapped one unit out. Every other time, do you know what we've done? We've literally said, just leave it. Because it's a narrative game. If it ends up being a little imbalanced, it's still going to be it's still probably going to be much more, it's still not be too far off, you know, match play, right? And also, if it ends up being a little imbalanced, we'll just feed that into the story. And we'll make it so that that even if the game ends up being a bit one-sided, story will be fed into. Because this is almost, it's like, it's 75% we're playing against, no, it's not like that. It's 60% we're playing against each other. It's 40% we're almost collaborating on the cool story. And this collaboration on the cool story feeds into the decisions that you make in the game. So, a good example of this is in both narrative games that I've done now, I've had a commissar leading one of my platoons, right? In both games, even though in both games there's been a point where even though it would have been much more sensible and much more reliable for me to just shoot on the spot, I've gone, no, my commissar is leading this platoon. What would the commissar do? I'd tell you what the commissar would do. He would tell the men to fix bayonets and charge in. So that's what he's done. They've moved forward. He's given them the order to fix bayonets. Their shooting has been much less effective, and then they've had to charge in to get the result that they wanted. But by charging in, it meant that my opponent got to do a bit of damage back to me. There's this element of what would your unit do? It's led by a commissar. It's going to charge in. That's what it's going to do. What would your Scorpec do? Would your Scorpec Lord go on to the objective? Or would your Scorpec Lord go in there and get into the mano-a-mano duel with the Inquisitor? He'd go for the kill. Of course he would. No questions asked. That's what he would do. Because this Inquisitor is challenging the might of his dynasty. I think for the first time in... Not for the first time, because obviously I've done this with Thanatos. But it's something that I've realised that there is a true joy to narrative play. A true joy to it. And I think, sadly, I think it's something that GW's got completely wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. I think GW's Crusade system is completely wrong. Because it requires a huge amount of bookkeeping. It requires a huge amount of bookkeeping. And you've got to track things from game to game to game. No. This is how you do narrative 40k in my mind. In my opinion. Each mission should be self-contained and loosely connected. So, you're playing a game of 40k. You've set the primary mission. It's 1500 points, 1500 points. You've toned your list down a bit, but generally, you're trying to kill each other and do the objective. That's the game of 40k, alright? And then you go into the next game, and you don't have to keep track of experience points or anything like that. No. Nothing like that. You go into the next game, and maybe you tailor your list a little bit this time. Not against your opponent. You tailor your list to represent maybe what's happening in the mission, and maybe because of what happened in the last mission. So, for example, with me, in the first game, I had like normal guard stuff like Sentinels and the battle tank stuff. In the second game, we were fighting in an Imperial base, not a ruined city, in an Imperial base. So I was like, well, an Imperial base is going to have access to some better technology. It's going to be where they keep the good stuff, right? So I'm like, they're probably not going to send a Valdor out, a treasured relic, into a ruined city on a random recon mission. But they'll definitely have a Valdor that they could use. That's maybe part of the standing garrison of this facility. Do you know what I mean? So I'll take the battle tank out, which died, and I will keep a tank in here, but I'll put a Valdor in instead. And then one of my platoons got completely wiped out, completely and utterly wiped out. And I was like, okay, well, that platoon's wiped out. So it's not 1st and 2nd platoon anymore. It's going to be 1st and 3rd platoon. 3rd platoon has this is the 3rd platoon in the company that's fighting around here. The one from the reserve. So I tweaked my and I took a different unit instead of Catachans. I took Cadians. I took a different unit to represent, to feed into the story that there's been some permanent casualties. But if you come across episode 2, you don't have to know that this thing's got this experience points from last game and this unit's done. No, you could come into episode 2 of this battle report series and watch it, and just enjoy it for the standalone game that it is. And then it might inspire you to go back and see what happened, because we're talking about some of the cool stuff that happened in the last game. But we're not forcing you to keep track of everything that's happened. That's the way I think you run a narrative campaign. It's basically a series of loosely connected... It's a series of games that are telling a story that are loosely connected but can stand on their own 2 feet. That's the way I think you do it. Having all of these crusade points and all of the experience points, no. That just messes it up and defeats the point. And what's interesting is I played someone today who said that they tried to do like a narrative game, because I was talking about narrative and everything, and he said, oh, it was just so much faff keeping track of everything. And I said, oh, what, you playing Crusade? He went, yeah, I played like 2 games of it. And then he said he played 3 games of it and couldn't bother keeping up with it, because he's got like guards who's got all these small different units that are all achieving different experiences, and it was a nightmare to keep track of. I went, oh no, we don't do anything like that. And then I explained to him what I explained to you guys. Which I kept it a bit more succinct because we were doing a game and I didn't want to bore him to death. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it was kind of interesting to see. It wasn't just my suspicion; it's what I've heard from other people say as well. And shout out to Winter's SEO, another content creator out there who does some really, really good battle reports. Definitely a bit of inspiration for me. He said this when Crusade first came out. He said, "This is what the hell is this? Crusade shouldn't be a format. Crusade should be a sandbox." And that's what I think narrative play is missing. Narrative play should literally, from GW's perspective, narrative play should almost be, narrative play should be inspiration. It shouldn't be hard and fast. It should be a sandbox. And that's it. What do you guys think? I want to make one thing abundantly clear, just to sign off on. I don't think that match play is better than narrative, or narrative is better than match play. I just think that they both have their great strengths and weaknesses. I really do, like I said at the beginning of the video, I really appreciate everything that match play and competitive play and standard formats have done for the game. I really, really appreciate that. But I really enjoy also playing narrative play now, and it has definitely opened my eyes up to it. And I used to be someone that poo-pooed Crusade, poo-pooed narrative play, looked down on it and was like, no, I'm competitive all the way. It was almost a bit arrogant, almost a bit superior. Now, I put them in equal regard after trying them out, after trying both out. But trying both out properly. The way properly is not the right word, the way I think it should be done. May not be the same way everyone else thinks it's done. Exactly. Appreciate both, what they are, and enjoy them. Exactly, Leslie. Exactly. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure, and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and Patreons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.